So our guest this month is Worshipful Brother Adam Goldman. He's a past master of Harmony Lodge number 17, past Venerable Master of the Scottish Rite's Mithras Lodge of Perfection, and past Grand Order of the Grand Lodge of Washington, DC FAAM. He's also a member of several other Grand Lodges and research lodges in California, Europe, and Central America. Additionally, Worshipful Brother Goldman is active in several occult bodies that focus on the Western esoteric traditions, such as Masonic, Rosicrucians in England and America. His topic for today is going to be the astrotheological and Gnostic significance behind the Holy Saints John and how those deities intersect the crossroads with Freemasonry's Dark North. So, Brother Goldman, I will leave it to you. Thank you.
Okay, the only problem is so I can't see anyone because I'm only sharing my screen. So so Aaron or somebody just let me know if there's any issues, okay?
You got it.
Okay, all right. And I probably could have done it differently, and then I could have seen. But anyway, so thank you all again, and worshipful brothers and brothers all. I appreciate allowing me to speak with you this evening about something that I'm very passionate about. It's astrology and where it intersects with Freemasonry. So astrology, so comes from the study of the ology part, the study of, and then the planets and stars and their movements within the heavens. Theology, again, the study of, and then theo, God. So put them together, and it's where and how theology or the God is depicted in either astrology or mythology or so tonight we're going to look at some symbols of Freemasonry and see if we can I guess understand some of the symbolism a bit better. And starting with this is a symbol which we usually see in a reflection chamber called vitriol, usually with periods in between each of the letters, VITRIOL. In English, it says, visit the interior of the earth. And rectificando, it could mean like purifying or distilling. One will find the hidden stone, the occultum lapidum. And so we've seen this within the reflection chambers, but it's not generally explained what it means if you're not an alchemist. If you study alchemy, you know, this is used a bit more. But when we look at it, we see several symbols. By the way, can you see my my cursor if I point?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Good. Okay, so the symbols that we see in this plate are we see Venus and Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and then the sun and the moon. And the sun and the moon are pouring their liquid metals, so silver or quicksilver and gold for the sun, into this goblet. And the goblet is resting on the symbol for the planet and the element Mercury. Here we have the sphere terrestrial, and here the sphere celestial. So it's almost like we're walking in the West Gate here, and we have the these planets in a circle with their focus around Mercury. We have the lion, and we have the double-headed eagle. And by the way, Aaron, remind me: is this a open, or are we open on a particular degree?
This is not tiled, and there are some folks here who are not Master Masons.
You got it. Okay, no problem. So, and so we have a double-headed eagle, which those of us that are Scottish Rite or Orthodox Christians might recognize this from our daily lives, and other Masons, may recognize the symbolism of the lion from various degrees. Okay, so with that, oh, I should say real quick. So when we study Freemasonry, we're studying the story of Hiram Abiff. That's not giving away any of our secrets. It's called the Hiramic legend. And so the story around Hiram is I don't know, centered mainly in the Book of Kings, but also Samuel and Chronicles and elsewhere. And so Freemasonry is rooted in the Old Testament or the volume of the Sacred Law. And so tonight I'm going to go over where the symbols of Freemasonry are hidden both in our degrees, and then I'll accent that by looking at some scripture. Starting with Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." God made the two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. He made the stars also. So Masons should recognize some lines within that bit of scripture. And when we look back to when that scripture was formed in Israel's formation by the priest, we find that around that time in Israel, we have uncovered several zodiacs, and these are all from period. And here's one that was unearthed. I forget which city this one is in, and here's another one. But you can see that in ancient Israel, they were already depicting, looks like Gemini, and you can pick out certain signs in here, Scorpio and Pisces, and over here you can see much the same. Here's Libra and the sheaves of wheat of a Virgo, and these are called houses within the zodiac, right? These are the different houses: the first house, second house, third house, etc. And so this is interesting. This house of wheat is where we make is from whence we make bread. And so this house has been known as the house of bread of Virgo. House in Hebrew is bet, and bread is lechem, and you put them together and you get Bet-lechem or Bethlehem. And you'll see that that's right across from Pisces. And so there's reasons for that as well. And then you see that this was also unearthed in one of the ancient villas in the Palestine region, and you can see that it has a water goat in the background for Capricorn. So we can see that around period that we're talking about the writing of our scriptures by the Levite priests, that the zodiac was prominent in the country. So when we now look at astrotheology, I'm going to start with an example from scripture, and this will help us to understand the the presentation as a whole through this one example, I hope. So this, and maybe I should say real quick, is that the Bible is happening around 2,000 years before the Common Era. So 4,000 to 2,000 is this kind of this Egyptian era of the Bible, right? It's the age of Taurus, and you had the bull being worshipped, maybe under Hathor, and the Apis bull, and in Crete around that time you had the Minoans that were worshiping the bull, and many other civilizations. And so as we were moving, and that was 4,000 to 2,000 was the age of Taurus the bull. Around 2,000 to the year zero is the age of Aries the ram. And we're going to see lots of bulls and rams as we go through, because it'll be my argument that this transition is really highlighted through the symbolism of Freemasonry, the transition from the age of Taurus to the age of Aries. And I say about 2,000 years because when you go outside on the spring equinox and you look directly east as the sun's rising, the sun is right, whatever sign is directly to your east, we say that's the sign that we are in, and we stay in that sign about 2,160 years. And so for the last couple thousand years, we've been in the age of Pisces. And but here, this is the story where this is after Moses had received the commandments from Yahweh, and later on, the Israelites under the chief Rabbi Aaron decided to melt down their earrings, the Israelitish women, and create this Egyptian bull that they were used to worshiping before the Exodus out of the gold earrings of the women. And so this is them, having a, kind of a, I don't know, a festival to commemorate the bull. And what we find here in this picture is the first lesson in astrotheology, or the movement from the bull to the ram. So as we look in here, we see again the bull representing the age of Taurus. Aaron, are you guys still there? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we are all here.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. Again, since I can't see you, I'll just check periodically. Okay, so this is around this time is around 2000 BC. So we are just moving from the age of Taurus again into the age of Aries, the ram. And so the covenant with Yahweh that Moses was making, the Israelites started getting cold feet. They're used to worshiping bulls and other Egyptian pantheon gods, and so they went back to their old ways, and they melted down the earrings of the Israelitish women, and they created a golden bull. So gold, again, is the metal of the sun, the bull, the symbol of Taurus. Put them together, it has something to do with the sun in Taurus, astrotheologically. And if anyone doesn't get this after when I'm done with this slide, please stop me and ask any questions, because you really need to understand the concepts of astrotheology from this slide. So before we move forward, but we have the solar metal. So it was a golden calf, and the calf is a baby bull. So it's an allusion to both the sun and the bull, or Taurus. Now there's one woman that's prominent in this scene, and so and you can almost see like Isis. She has her left breast just poking out. Also the of Liberté from the Jacobite French Revolution. They had a very similar symbol. And this is the planet Venus. Venus rules Taurus. And by the way, in America, Venus, her full name in Rome was Venus Columba, or Venus the Dove, and it's from whence we get the District of Columbia. We are the District of Columbia for the goddess Venus, and you'll see in some of our symbolism from period that we have the goddess Columbia depicted nearly identically. But again, so here's Taurus, and here's the ruling planet, because every sign of the zodiac has a planet that rules it. And across we have Scorpio, and Scorpio is ruled by the planet Mars. I'm sorry, what am I talking about? Aries the ram. I'm sorry, we were talking about the ram. So next to Taurus is Aries the ram. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is a red warrior planet, and so the gentleman with his big muscular back that looks like he should be one of the legionnaires or soldiers, he is the ruling planet of Aries the ram, which is hidden from this picture. Now, the eye of Taurus for Scottish Rite Masons is one of the royal stars of the Scottish Rite, and it's called Aldebaran. Aldebaran is hidden in this slide as well from the Rabbi Aaron, which is Moses' elder brother Aaron, Elder Baron. So Aldebaran is hidden within here too. So you have Taurus, you have the sun, ruling planet Venus, you got Aries hidden, but ruling planet Mars here, and you have Aldebaran, or the elder brother Aaron, in the picture as well. And again, Aldebaran is the eye of Taurus. So you have a lot of symbolism where the Levite priests, which were astrologers, are hiding symbolism here for those that are revealed or allowed secret teachings in Judaism. We call that Kabbalah. And so for rabbis that were special and they were singled out by their peers, they got the secret teachings. But again, so this is the year 2000, so we're switching from the age of Taurus to the age of Aries. So at this point, Moses comes and destroys the calf, and that is the same symbolism as when they have the bullfighting. It's the destruction of the bull, saying that we're not in the age of Taurus anymore. And to signify the covenant with Yahweh, they blow the shofar, which is a ram's horn, to announce the new era, the new epoch under Yahweh, or under the era of the ram. The ram's horn is blown to signify out with the old, in with the new, out with Taurus, in with Aries. With that, so if you get the concepts of how the rabbinic, oh, and I just saw my dog. Now I'm going to be happy. Okay, thank you. My dog just ran through the backyard, and I just saw him. He looks like he's in trouble. So, so now I feel better. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now that you understand the way that the priests, the Levite priests, hid astrology within the Torah, the law. Now let's see where we might find it in Freemasonry. So tonight we'll look at what does a lodge or a temple represent. So we're going to be looking at all the symbolism of the lodge, or not all, but I mean several important symbols of the lodge. But importantly, right, the sphere celestial and the sphere terrestrial. And then again, there won't be anything that is unshareable in an open forum, which are modes of recognition mainly. And so we won't get into any of that stuff. Who are the officers mythologically? Why is it dark in the north? And who are Hiram and Solomon really? Okay, and again, it looks like there was 15 last time I looked of us. So if anybody needs to stop me and ask questions, please feel free to do that. We don't need to get through all this. We can always come back. All right, so looking back at the volume of the Sacred Law, because like I said, we're going to accentuate the symbols and the stories and the astrology and the mythology and the theology with verses from the Torah. So let now the astrologers, those who prophesy by the stars, those who predict by the new moon, stand up and save you from what will come upon you. And like what we heard in the first verse out of Genesis, the planets, according to Old Testament, the planets and stars are put there for us to understand what might be coming. So they were, it's a Morse code, you know, or just a code by which we mere mortals might glean information about God's intentions. And for those who have read Jamie Lamb's book, Myth, Magic, and Masonry, he he talks quite a bit about the end of the age of Taurus, but he's focusing more on the Mithraic cults that were competing with Christianity in around the same period. So these, but he makes some really great observations in this. One of them being when we look at the laying of a cornerstone in Freemasonry, we find several dates in it. And again, if as Freemasons, I'm making the argument that the symbolism is hiding, obscuring, occulting this changeover from the age of Taurus to the age of Aries. You would imagine that there's going to be these symbols which aren't explained, but that are hiding somehow the changeover from Taurus to Aries. And so one of them, when we look at this cornerstone, it was laid by this AF and AM, so Ancient Free and Accepted Masons, on June 8th, and it's in the year of our Lord, Anno Domini 1914, and in the year of light, Anno Lucas 5914. So what's happened is, again, our current era, starting around the year 0, is in the age of Pisces, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But that means from 0 back to 2000 BC was the age of Aries. 2000 BC to 4000 BC was the age of Taurus. You add 1914 to that, and essentially what having this Anno Lucas date is it's starting all the way back at the age of Taurus. So our Masonic dating system is starting at the beginning of Taurus, 4000 to 2000, and then Aries 2000 to 0, and then from the age 0 to 1914 is the age of Pisces. So very interesting that in our cornerstones we're occulting or hiding the Taurian age, the age of Taurus. And just a picture of Brother George laying the cornerstone of the Capitol. But interestingly, he has the wages of a Mason on here, corn, wine, and oil, which are associated with the 3 principal elements of alchemy, sulfur, mercury, and what am I forgetting? Salt. Okay, so whether you're a Mason or not, if you've pulled up a picture of our Masonic lodge room, you'll see 2 pillars, and on top of one is the earth, and on top of the other is what we call the globe celestial, and it's just a round version of our heavens. And so it's interesting for what we're talking about today, because when you think about the heavens above us and the earth, by looking at those 2 pillars, we have the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below. Or in the Lord's Prayer, we say, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Again, bread associated with, where is it? Virgo. Remember the Bethlehem, the house of bread. Give us this day our daily bread. And so, and right across from Pisces, the age that we're in, where, the symbol of Pisces is the fish, much like the symbol of Christianity is a fish. So anyway, but more importantly, to say that around the time of the writing of the Torah, it would have been it was a geocentric world, right? The planets moved around the earth, not vice versa, right? This was pre-Copernicus and Galileo, and so the earth was the center of the universe, and the moon all the way out to Saturn were what we called the 7 visible Chaldean planets, because that's all you could see with the naked eye. So we didn't worry about Uranus or Neptune or anything, because no one knew that they were out there, except for maybe some African tribes, and that's a different story altogether. But so when you think about, when you walk into a lodge room, if you look in the middle of a lodge room, you'll see that there's this altar, and that the movement around the altar is much like these planets moving around the earth here in this terrestrial chart. Now, when we look over here at a traditional zodiac, starting with Aries and Taurus, remember, this is what we're talking about. This is Taurus the bull, Aries the ram. I'm going to try and point them out each time. Again, remember, this is Venus. This is the girl with her breasts hanging out from the golden calf picture, right? And here's the guy with a big muscly red back. Here's Mars the warrior, fire and earth elements. So Aries is also spring, right? In the Scottish Rite, we worry about the Feast of Tishrei, which is right around here. This is the equinox, but this is the autumnal equinox. So this is, equinox comes from equal, equi, and nox, night. So when there is an equal amount of day and night here and here. So these are the spring or vernal equinox, and vernal from the root ver, which means green, because this is where things are becoming green again, right? And so in the Bible, when it says, verily, verily, I say unto thee, it's a reference to in the New Testament, to the vernal equinox. Here is the sun at its meridian height in the year. Cancer to Leo, this is the summer, or the summer solstice. And when the sun is down here in Capricorn and Aquarius, where the sun is at its weakest, the greatest amount of night and the least amount of daytime hours, this is the winter solstice. And so when you and when you look at certain religions, like when you look at Hindus, the Hindus, they worship, their pantheon is broken into three, called the Trimurti: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, associated with these three phases of the moon: the vernal equinox, the sun at meridian height, and the summer solstice, and the vernal equinox. So because it's when this, so if you're a society that's focusing on the sun, like the Levite priests were, or a religion, or the Freemasons, or the Rosicrucians, or others, you can see that when the sun is just starting to become powerful again, it's been at its weakest, which we don't talk about so much, but this is, oh, by the way, so when you're in the northern hemisphere, this is the south, this is the east, the west, and the north. And so when the sun is in the north, from our perspective, and it's at its weakest, because the days are the shortest and the night is the longest, so mythologically we'd say that the powers of darkness has overcome the powers of light. If you're a group that is focused on the mythology of the sun, you know, you're not going to highlight that period. And so if you look in a Masonic lodge, we don't have a chair in this north. We say that it's dark in the north. And it's because as a society that focuses more on the sun, like Judaism or Christianity or Hinduism, or you name it, when the sun is weak is not going to be something that we're going to be highlighting like we are when it's just starting its to become powerful again, when it's equal night and equal day at the vernal equinox, March 20th to 21st, and we're going to like that because that's when the sun becomes more and more powerful until it reaches its zenith at June 21st. And at the vernal equinox, or at the autumnal equinox, this is when the Scottish Rite, we have the Feast of Tishri associated with these months, and this is Nisan, the months of Nisan in the Hebrew calendar, like the car. When the Bible says there's a time to reap and a time to sow, well, you reap in Libra and Scorpio, and you sow your seeds. You sow your seeds in Aries and Taurus, and then you reap your harvest for the Feast of Tishrei in Libra and Scorpio. So in the book of Job, we have, canst thou bind the sweet influences of the Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season? Or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? So Pleiades may or may not be the right translation. I've seen scholars debate this one, but bands of Orion, they're pretty set that is the correct translation of that, at least. So Orion is certainly mentioned. Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season? Mazzaroth comes from the root Maz, which is, or maybe Maza, I can't remember, which means star, and together Mazzaroth means the circle of stars, or the zodiac. And the same root, Maz, when we say, when somebody has a life event in Judaism, we would say Mazel Tov, same root, which means Tov is good. So Mazel and Tov is good star, like, it's, so even in common parlance, we are talking about stars. Arcturus is what the brightest star in Bootes, and then knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? We're gonna ordinances from ordo in Latin, the orders. We're gonna look at the various orders now. But before we do, just quickly, again, this is the east, this is the south, this is the west, and this is the north of the zodiac. And we're looking at it throughout the movement of the sun through the signs throughout the year, right? So as the sun takes 30 days to move through a sign, right? That's why when somebody is a Taurus, is anybody a Taurus in here today?
Lots of head shakes. I am an Aquarius.
Okay, no Taurus though?
I'm a Taurus. Brian Williams here.
And when's your birthday, brother?
May 20th.
Okay. And so what that's saying is that he was born when the sun was transiting Taurus for about 30 days. But it's all about the sun in the month of May, or a Mason, right? So the word Mason, again, relates back to the sun in Taurus, much like that golden calf. And so, but we see this mirrored in the lodge room. So again, here's the east, here's the east, here's the junior warden in the south, here's the summer solstice, here is the senior warden in the west, and here is the autumnal equinox, and here is the winter solstice, which solar people aren't going to highlight again. And you see we have no nice chairs in the north, only in the east, south, and west. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. Psalm 19. So this is, hopefully it's starting to impress upon your mind that there is a lot of astrology in the Old Testament. Again, the Hiramic legend coming mostly out of Chronicles, Kings, and Samuel. There is a lot of overlap. Did I miss one? No. Okay. And like I said before, so when we think about the movement of the lodge officers, and again, I won't get it too much into this, since I know that there are non-Masons in here and not all Master Masons. But regardless, if you walked into a lodge room, Mason or non-Mason, and you walked around the lodge, are we representing planets moving through the zodiacal signs? Well, I want you to think, start thinking about it that way. And maybe that's why we walk in circles generally, instead of making more square actions. Although certain Grand Lodges do like the square, but I'd say that might be because they're out of touch with the astrology, because planets generally don't make square orbits. So if the hypothesis holds that there's a lot of astrology hiding the theology of the Torah in the Masonic lodge room and ritual, then we should imagine that starting with the first of the Chaldean planets, the moon, going all the way out to Saturn as a reminder, but starting with the moon, they should all be hidden in the Masonic ritual. And so I give you the moon, faith, hope, and charity. You may not recognize the moon hidden here, but if you look at the moon as it moves throughout the year, that you have what, like Daniel saw, wax on, wax off, right? So as the moon starts to build in its until it becomes a full moon, it's called a waxing moon. It's becoming more and more powerful until it reaches the full moon, and then it starts to wane, and then starts at a new moon again. So we see in faith, she's showing you just the left side of her face, and the right side is dark. Here you can see the waxing crescent. Only the left side is lighted, the right side is dark. Here's hope. She's showing you just the right side of her face, and you see the left side is dark. And here's the right side lit, left side dark. And here's charity in all her glory staring right at you, the full moon. And so, and we know that it's appropriate for the moon to be represented archetypally by a woman, because like my ex-girlfriend, when she had her period, she called it her moon cycle, because indeed it was associated with the moon. There's 13 lunar moons, and our calendar used to be representative of that. But still, it used to be in certain areas a 13-month calendar based on the moon cycles. And so the word month comes from moon. Monday comes from moon, the moon day. And we like Sunday because it comes from the sun. And menstrual from the word moon, right? Moonstrel, and so on and so forth. And so we find that the moon is certainly hidden within the Masonic allegory. Next planet in the Chaldean system would be Mercury. And Mercury was the messenger of the gods. And he was what was known as a psychopomp. He was the only one that was able to go into the underworld previous to Christ being able to do that same task. But in Greco-Roman mythology, it would be Zeus or Jupiter that would send Mercury or Hermes to perform that task, to go into the underworld to fetch Persephone or Eurydice or anything like that. So the messenger of the gods. And so what are the roles of the deacons? To carry messages from either the master or the senior warden elsewhere about the lodge. I'm not going to get into a ritual, but he's a message carrier, and so represents the planet Mercury. And you ever wonder why, if you look at a lodge room, you'll see that the senior warden and the junior warden and the master, they're all at 90-degree angles to one another, right? And even the secretary and the treasurer are, just directly, off 180 degrees away from the worshipful master in the east. But the senior deacon, is in this really weird spot in front of, to the right of the worshipful master in the east. Like, who chose that weird, cumbersome spot, right? Why not put him at a nice clean angle like the other officers? Well, if you look at the zodiac is broken into these 30-degree segments, right? And we call those a zodiacal sign or a house. And the 30 degrees are broken up into threes, and each one is called a decan because it's a tenth. There's 36 decans in the zodiac, right? That gives you 360 degrees. And so 1/10 of the zodiac is called a decan. Meet the senior decan. And so if this is the worshipful master in the east and you want to get to the first decan, you go to the right and in front of just slightly. And so now you know why the senior deacon is at this place in this really strange position. If we're talking about a group that is trying to be speculative Masons, why wouldn't we use something that was more perfect? But we find indeed it actually is perfect. If we are looking at a zodiac, then the senior decan is right where he should be. And looking at some of the, and by the way, so when he's moving around with candidates in a Masonic lodge, again, he's the planet Mercury moving around the zodiac. And you can see they're telling you in certain lodges. And I'll tell you, this has probably been lost to most of the members of the lodge, but they still preserve the symbols, just like in Judaism. They don't, or Christianity or Hindu. So many have lost the meaning behind the symbols, but the symbols yet remain. We should next see the planet Venus. And again, from a geocentric, remember the Earth is at the center of the universe in the ancient world where the Torah is being written. And so if we watch the planet Venus from the perspective of the Earth, that's what this diagram shows. The planet Venus does this throughout the year. And at the end, you wind up with this 5-pointed star, which has long been the symbol of the planet Venus. And sometimes Venus rises before the sun, and it's called the morning star. And so But and so, and there's been speculation about what that means and what does it mean if you invert. I'm not going to get into all that today, but I do have presentations that delve deeper into that stuff. But only important to say that if we're looking at representations of the planet Venus, well, then you can see that here is it. So this is, for those that aren't aware, the female or co-ed version of Freemasonry, or at least an offshoot, a complementary group, we'll say. And but it has the 5-pointed star of Venus. And here's a blindfolded girl. I'm not Eastern Star, so I can speculate all I want about what these symbols mean. Holding the scales of Libra. If you've seen the tarot card Justice, also represents Libra, has a sword pointing up. And here's another female for, again, the goddess Venus Columba, and a Roman eagle on top. So Venus shows up in in a side order, but also we'll see her again shortly. How about a sun? Is there a sun? Because the sun is the next planet that we should expect to see in the Chaldean order. And yeah, this guy Hiram is known as the widow's son. And if anyone has come across the Masonic bikers, they call themselves the widow's sons. But again, is it the S-O-N of the widow or the S-U-N of the widow, right? And so again, and like I said before, is it a Mason or is it a Mason for the age of Taurus? And so, but here's Hiram drawing his designs upon the trestle board, representing the sun. But but he's not the first widow's son, because previous to Hiram, before the Exodus, they were worshiping this guy, Horus. Horus had a father called Osiris. Osiris was slain by his brother Set, and his mom, well, Osiris, her husband / brother, was Osiris. So after Set killed Osiris, Isis went around Egypt to find the pieces, the 13 pieces that he'd been cut into, and collected them all. She found all of them except for his penis that was swallowed by a fish in the river Nile. So she put all the other pieces together, and she took a reed from the side of the river and put that where his phallus once was, and through magic, she put Osiris back together at least long enough to hop on top of him and impregnate herself. And so, but then he died again. And so Horus, who had no father because Osiris was dead, was also the son of a widow, Isis. And so, and again, when we say the sun rises in the east to open and adorn the day in Freemasonry, it rises over the horizon that comes from this guy, Horus. And his father was killed by the bad guy of the Egyptian mythology called Set. And when the sun sets in the west to close the day, we are talking about Set, which later becomes Shaitan, or the adversary in Hebrew, and Satan in Christianity. Enoch, we read, I have revealed everything to you so that you may see this sun and this moon and those who leave the stars of the sky and all those who turn them, their work, their times, and their emergences. Okay. So focusing on the sun real quick before we leave it, because it's so important to us. So if we look at the sun and its movement throughout the year, again, I told you that March 21st, thereabouts, we have the vernal equinox. Sun, equal day, equal night, and the sun around the equator. When the sun reaches the Tropic of Cancer around June 21st, the sun is at its meridian height. It doesn't get any higher throughout the year, and we call that the feast of St. John the Baptist. Then the sun continues on till September 21st. We have the autumnal equinox, and then it keeps going, and then the sun's at its weakest by the time the sun reaches the Tropic of Capricorn, and that's December 21st, and it's dark in the north, and then it comes back to March 21st, and so Tishrei and Nisan, and we start it all over again. Next planet we should find is Mars. Here is a depiction of the warrior god from Roman mythology, Mars, and here is our own warrior marshal, looking much the same, although not quite as tough. Jupiter is the next planet we should come to in the pantheon. And in Greek mythology, Zup, who is the same as in Roman mythology, Jupiter. So you have Zeus sending his son Hercules to do these 12 labors associated with the 12 signs of the zodiac, right? So he's got to do one labor in each sign, and here's Leo and here's Taurus, right? And you had to kill this bull for part of it, and killed that lion. And again, it's the sun, Hercules, moving through Taurus. When he's moving into Aries, he kills that bull, and then later he kills the ram, and it just is. It's symbolic. It's astrotheology. It's a way for the rabbis to pass on their teachings, or the Rosicrucian or the Christian mystics, the Martinists, you name it. It's a way of handing down your teachings in a way that the masses will see one thing, and then the elect, or the elect priests, or the Elus Cohen, get a secret teaching. But in Freemasonry, you have King Hiram of Tyre sending the widow's son, right? Hiram of Beth. And but anyway, you have this same kind of idea, this Jupiterian archetype in the person of Hiram of Tyre. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not anear. A star shall come forth from Jacob. A scepter shall rise from Israel, and shall crush through the forehead of Moab, and tear down all the sons of Sheth. All right. Last planet we should come to in the Chaldean order is Saturn. And so indeed, we see Saturn right here about to, this is, when he eats Zeus and hides him inside of his body in that mythology. And but in Freemasonry, we have this idea of the Virgin weeping, right? She's weeping before this broken column with a sprig of acacia in her hand, and time unfurling the ringlets of her hair from behind. And you see he's carrying the same scepter, which is associated with the Feast of Tishrei, right? So in the autumnal equinox, right, a time to reap and a time to sow, you reap in September 21st, and then we have that big party at the DC Valley of Scottish Rite, because we have grown our plants throughout the harvest season, and now we get to finally enjoy the fruits of our labors. And again, here's the goddess, right? The constellation Virgo, and you can see it right above her head, and and this column, right? So Virgo, or the planet Venus, and this column. Remember that the people that wrote our ritual spoke Greek, Hebrew, right, Latin, and so they liked double entendres, right? And so the word soul, which means your soul, like your spirit, but also the SOL is the sun. And here you have the Virgin before Virgo, the Virgin before a broken column. Column in Latin, colum means the dove. So it's a play on words. The Virgin and a column is Venus the dove, like the District of Columbia, or Liberté in France, or Isis. So we do see that that time unfurling the ringlets of her hair is certainly a Saturnian character, and there's a lot more than just that. Okay, so the last part is we're just going to look at All right, I'm gonna pretend like I don't care that Blaze is coming, but it sounds like he might be coming in the garage now. Okay, so all right, so we can see that that the like we'd seen when we walked into a lodge room, the symbol of the sphere celestial and the sphere terrestrial, which was the axiom from Hermes Trismegistus, as above, so below. We can see that here in this symbol of King Solomon, it does something quite similar. He has a lighted face here. Here it's darkened. His arms are darkened here, lightened down here. It's kind of like a Templar, what is that thing called? The blazon or whatever. But it's the, but also like a yin yang. It's like this inversion, as above, so below. And so, so what I believe this, one way to interpret this is that Solomon is both at once the sun and the moon, right? Just like the mosaic pavement in a Masonic lodge. And so the light and the dark, the soul and the mon, the soul amon, Solomon. And Pike said that the true philosophy known and practiced by Solomon was the basis on which Masonry is founded. Well, according to today's presentation, I'd like you to start thinking about that as being astrology, and think about it in terms of this. When we say that we're talking about the Temple of Solomon, remember, my body is my temple. And so you'll see that each one of the signs of the zodiac has a body part associated with it. You have the head associated with Aries. And remember, on the sides of this guy's eyes are his temples, right? So again, the Temple of Solomon could be the head, could be the body. Here's Taurus associated with the throat, Gemini, and so forth. You know, you've heard Richard called King Lionheart, right? That's because Taurus astrologically is associated with the heart, and Scorpio, the genitals, and so forth. And a really good book by Carey and Perry, these doctors associated all of these and then connected it to these salts that each body needs. And more so depending on which sign of the zodiac represents your birth. And so if I come back for part 2, if I get invited back, I'll start going into the Holy Royal Arch degrees where we, so if today's presentation was all about the age of Taurus transitioning into Aries, well, the Holy Royal Arch and others will look at the transition from the age of Aries into the age of Pisces. But anyway, the sun was, but just to say quickly, the sun at the very beginning of the sign was moving into the age of Pisces. And so at first it still has a little bit of Aries left in it. And so just a little bit of Aries, a baby ram is a lamb. So we had Christ as the Lamb of God at that point. So just as we were first moving into Pisces, but when the sun, say the next 700 years, or the first few hundred years, you know, you're moving into a zodiacal sign and you still have a lot of attributes of the previous sign. But by the time you're in the middle of the sign, say around the year 700, say 1400, like that 700 year, then you really are what we call Piscean or Piscean. And so then Christ is the fisher of men, right? And he's able to walk on water, everything associated with this water sign of Pisces. And then later on, you know, as he's transitioning out, the next sign of the zodiac would be Aquarius. And so when they move into this town to have the Last Supper, they are told to, you know, look for the man that is carrying a water pitcher, and you'll know where you're gonna, you know, have this final feast. And in antiquity, men never carried water. That would never happen. That was a woman's job. Men had their roles and women had their roles. And so the only way it would make sense to say, look for a man carrying water would be Aquarius, to my mind, because Aquarius is a man with a water pitcher. And so, but hopefully I get to come back and continue talking about this, because hopefully it came through that I'm very passionate about astrology. I'm very passionate about Freemasonry, and I hope humbly that that you were able to get something out of today's presentation. And again, since I can't see you, I hope you're all still there and I'm not talking to myself. We'll end on this quote from Robert Hewitt Brown. Freemasonry is a system of science as well as morality, veiled in astronomical allegory and illustrated by astronomical symbols. So I think that's, so to conclude, the lodge or the temple is the earth, the officers are the wandering stars, it's dark in the north due to the winter, and Hiram and Solomon are both just solar men.